This is Pod Populi.
Podcast for the people.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.
Hi again, everyone. It's Brian Howie. Welcome to the Great Love Debate, the world's #1 dating and relationship podcast. Since 2015, I am here in the very fine studios of Pod Populi, Podcast for the People. I am at the one in Boca Raton, Florida. The weather is deep jungle, humid, Jurassic Park, disgusting. But, you know, brighter days ahead, I suppose. Thank you for all the feedback, the people who gave me the feedback on the show we did in London, which I really enjoyed doing. I know I'm going to talk about that for a long time, how much I like London, but I'm back in Boca, which most of the year is very, very nice. Now, as I always say, two things on this show. One is we are always trying to sell hope. And we've done a lot of podcasts in the last year that were a little less than hopeful. We did some divorce stuff. We did some breakup stuff. We did some the world is hard stuff or whatever. So I wanted to do something that I think is a little more hopeful today. I'm going to bring in my guest in a second. My longtime producer of this show, the 2-time Emmy Award-winning Keiko, used to always say to me, everybody thinks they can do my job. And I was always like, yeah, people say that to me too, you know? There was a point where when we were on the Great Love Debate tour about the second year in, we were trying to find different people to host the show and have this going on all over the place in the country at the same time, because it was really hard on me to get to every city and host it. And so we actually spent a summer sort of in Chicago auditioning people to do what I do, and we couldn't find them, and I wanted to find them. And my manager at the time said, okay, it's no longer the Great Love Debate. It's now the Great Love Debate with Brian Howie. And I was like, good. Fuck. Now I have to do it the whole time. You know, you kind of have to really be curious about this stuff, and you really kind of have to want to have these conversations. So why I bring that up, everybody can do my job, which she said, and she's a big-time reality television producer, is that my guest here is currently has a job that I think is one of the most challenging jobs that you could possibly have, because the risk reward on it, so much can go wrong. And if it goes right, it's almost like there's disaster or relief. There's and I say that a lot when I used to do live theater. People used to be like, oh my God, are you so excited it's opening night? I'm like, no, it's disaster or relief. You sort of get through it. Anyway, she is the host of the Wedding Buzz podcast, which you should check out. She has a lot of things to say about sort of the philosophy about what we're trying to do on our wedding day and beyond, especially from the bride's point of view. She's a fairly recent bride herself, I believe. Sydney Whidden, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
Everybody always thinks that, oh my God, I could plan weddings. No, you couldn't. It's the most important day of, or at least in the conversation for the most important day of at least one, maybe both of their lives. It's such a high wire act, filled with stress, filled with visions that are hard to pull off, filled with you're trying to capture a feeling that is tough for her to even eloquently enunciate to plan it out. What made you even want to get into a racket like this?
You know, I kind of fell into it. I was at Einstein Bagels freshman year of college, sitting with my friend who was engaged, and we were talking about her wedding, and she was in that like, oh, we could do this and I could do that and like all this stuff. And I was asking questions. Well, how is this going to happen? And how is this going to happen? And she looked at me and was like, you should be a wedding planner. And at 18, I didn't even know that that was a career people had.
Right.
And so I looked into it and realized that at my college, the hospitality program had an event management concentration, and I got a job with a wedding planner and switched my major and just kind of dove into it. So she was like, you should do this. And then I realized, oh, maybe I really should do this.
And so your impression of what that was versus the reality of what it is, what is the difference, if there's anything? A lot of people think it's like, oh, I could pick flowers and colors and patterns. And it's,
you know, what's funny is that like, I remember like the first wedding, I was like, oh, like this is a production. Like,
yeah, you're a producer. Yeah, that's exactly what you are.
Yeah. And like, now I'm a bit older. I have been married. A lot of my friends have been married. I've been a bridesmaid. I've been on every angle of weddings. So I understand it. But back then I remember the first wedding. I was just like, whoa, like it's a production, but I also loved it. I didn't have a concrete thing of what I wanted to do when I grow up.
Right.
I am a girly girl. I love glitz, glamour, whatever. I also, at the time, like I play guitar and I sing. And so I was like, I want to be Taylor Swift, but that was not going to happen. So I saw these weddings as like, but I also love business. And so
You're like, well, I could be the music at your wedding. Save some money.
maybe not the music, but you know, it's a whole production, but I also fell in love with it at the same time. I was like, whoa, I can, you know, bring my business skills in and like my organization and logistics into something that is girly and fun and pretty.
You are every wedding. I think you, from a wedding planner's perspective, is you have to solve a puzzle, and this puzzle involves their personality. It involves a lot of moving parts in terms of friends and family and what you're doing. It has a lot to do with venue and certainly cost. Making people's dreams happen when, no matter how wealthy you are, there's budget limitations, and you have to break the news to them like, we probably can't. This is what that will cost. And then you don't want to disappoint them because you're trying to give them the feeling of the dream. That has to be something that's challenging to learn no matter how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, it is. It is. And you know, the budget is never a fun conversation. Especially these days, we live in such a, what's the word? Comparative? That's not a word. But anyway, like everyone compares.
Yeah, that's a word.
Is it a word? A comparative culture where you're seeing these weddings on social media and everyone thinks like I can have that. And it's a harsh reality of what you think online looks like a $40,000 wedding is truly over $100,000 and beyond. Like what people might think is like an average wedding is so much more expensive than people think. And it is tough because you don't want to break the bank on a wedding. It's just one day. It's one big party. You don't want to go into debt and stuff over it. But on the flip side, it's your one wedding day. So finding that balance is a little tricky.
And a lot of times, not to stereotype, but that's what we do here at the Great Love Debate. This is the most important day for the bride. A lot of time, this is the destination. The men are kind of like, okay, I want to start the marriage, but a lot of times she has dreamt of this day.
Yes.
Since she was a young girl, her wedding day is her day, and I respect that totally. And to not have that day in the way you wanted, that's what was one of the challenges with COVID for a couple of years. Like people are like, we're engaged, our wedding's canceled. Do we half-ass it? Do we put people in masks? Do we not do it? Do we wait 2 years? Like that had to be really challenging and blow up a lot of dreams, I think, for people, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, it is challenging, and there's not a perfect, like, kind of like what you were saying with theater. I mean, like I said, I play guitar. So I've done like shows, and it's kind of a make or break. It's either going to happen great or not. And if it doesn't go well, that performance didn't go well.
And your job is to try and think of 100 possible things that could go wrong.
Yes.
And if you're lucky, you get 90% of them right, and you just get some luck. It's preparation and luck. Hope it makes it up, but a lot of things can happen. I said on this podcast a few months ago about how my cousin was just hung over from the rehearsal dinner the night before, and he just fainted on the altar. Like that just put a damper on things. And I remember the wedding planners there had to leap into action with some quick music and some entertainment. Like you have to be prepared for this happened. You have to be prepared for the flowers weren't exactly what she wanted. You have to be prepared for too many people, too few people, cancel. All these kind of things can go wrong, and you're in the eye of the blame. They're entrusting you with their dream and their money, and you got to hit that bullseye.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm stressing you out talking about it. You're like, I'm going to go back into some other job. Yeah.
I quit.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think that it is just our job to think of all these things. And, you know, there is no perfect, but there are things that you can do to prepare yourself well. For example, like the timeline, I overestimate everything. I like an hour and a half cocktail hour. You know, give people food. They're okay for an hour and a half. They don't realize as long as they have food and drinks, they won't realize that it's an hour and a half instead of an hour. But that gives you some wiggle room. It gives you some time. You know, like overestimate how long things are going to take. Of course, not too long because you don't want the day to drag. But by giving yourself that little wiggle room when something pops up, it's, you know what? We have 10 minutes in the schedule, so we're okay. We're okay. Let's figure it out because we have this time. I always like packing, the way that I suggest people pack things for every event kind of separately so that you have your little like emergency kits ready to go. So it's, of course, there might be an or something, but at least it's not like and we have no supplies, no backup plan. It's hey, we have this kit. Let me go grab it. We're going to be okay.
What is the proper amount of time? You bring up timelines from the time somebody meets with you. Are most of them like we're getting married in 9 months, or is it 2 months, or is it all over the board? Is it 2 years? What is that venue specific? Sometimes they're like, we want to get married here, and it's like, good luck.
I think it's something that I think it's funny that I can't put a number on it because it's so different. I think it depends on kind of the budget of the wedding. Smaller budgets a lot of the time are more quick, casual, let's just get it done. And okay, we can whip this together in 3-4 months. Bigger budgets often are aligned with brides who want things to be a certain way, and that takes time. So it really varies. It's funny. I did a wedding expo a couple weeks ago, and I ask every bride that comes, when is your wedding? And when did you get engaged? What's your timeline here? And I get everything from like, my wedding is in October. Can you help us out? To my wedding is October of 2025.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are waiting on the perfect venue. There's a lot of really fantastic venues in this part of the world, but then you're dealing with weather at certain times of the year. You know, you can go get, try and book the Breakers up in Palm Beach or Addison here in Boca Raton or the Boca Raton Resort or something like that. You got to hit the right day and the right time and all that. The biggest, I don't think negotiation is the word, but maybe is the food, is the DJ versus band? What is the thing that is the biggest part of negotiation? Is it, what are we serving? Cocktail hour, location? What is it?
It's funny because it depends. Are you talking to the bride or are you talking to the groom?
I think I'm talking to the bride. Maybe I'm talking to the father of the bride. I don't know.
I can tell you, father of the bride and groom usually care about food and bar. And the bride often cares about the pretty of what are the flowers. What's this going to look like?
The aesthetic.
Father is usually budget. I mean, we're being super stereotypical.
Well, that's
right
what
now.
we do here. Well, I'm going to be even more stereotypical. I can't tell you how many guys are upset about fall weddings because it falls on college football Saturdays, which is a really big deal to a lot of people, especially in this part of the world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that my husband is one of those guys that would be devastated if we had to go to a wedding.
And then they're watching on their phone or they're in the bar on the TV. It's like, go Buckeyes or whatever their team is. And the bride is like, this is my day.
This is my day. Yeah. The one thing that like I kind of suggest to people is like, if your spouse isn't super into the planning, don't make them be. Include them in some things and like ask them like, hey, this means a lot to me.
Right.
Please participate. But like, if it's just not their thing and they're saying, like, you know what, honey, like you pick, then.
Right. And there's a fine line between showing support and showing indifference.
Yes.
And you have to be like, what I support everything you want, run anything by me. I'll give you my ideas if you want them, but I want you to have the freedom to create the day that you want today. And that's it. I think that's reasonable. A lot of guys aren't very good at having that conversation.
No. And I agree. There are some guys that are probably not very nice about it. And then there are some brides that are probably like way overboard of wanting him to be as excited. And I think just because he's not as excited about the flowers doesn't mean that he's not excited to marry you.
Right. Because like I said earlier, he's like, let's get to the honeymoon.
My husband wanted to get married at Bass Pro Shops. And so it's like,
I love Bass Pro Shops.
And he was serious. I mean, it's a great place.
Like under the bear.
So the one in Island Murata in the Keys actually has like a little beachfront and they do weddings and it is pretty. Yeah. It is pretty. No hate on Bass Pro, but that was not my vision for the day.
Right.
And the thing is, it's like, I could have kept asking him like, what do you think? What do you think? He honestly, that's what he wanted. And he wanted to walk down the aisle to the James Bond theme song. And so like, I couldn't keep asking him what he wanted because that's what he wanted. And it was not going to happen. So But he also at the same time was like, it's okay, babe. Just you pick what you want.
Right. How, again, another stereotype. Generally speaking, does the father of the bride write the check?
Often, yes. Often, yes. Of course, there's so many other situations.
Yeah, it's tough when two young people are trying to pay for their own wedding. That is a hard thing too, because they want to give it, and you don't want to just have a bowl of chips. Like you kind of want to.
There's always people who unfortunately don't have a good relationship with their father, or they're some people, if they're later in life, they might be more successful than their parents are, and so they end up paying for their own wedding.
Yeah, that's
and not,
true too.
Like asking their parents.
My dad, who had a fair amount of money, my sister, who had a giant, ridiculous wedding. My dad drew the line at the champagne toast. He's like, I'm not paying for people to take one sip and put it down, and that is like 15 grand worth of champagne or whatever. He goes, no. And she freaked out. They had a huge fight about it. He's like, they can have their wine, they can take a sip of whatever their beverages. I'm not paying for it. And I thought, like, drawing a line there. Yeah, it's 400 people at this wedding. That's where he's like, I'm not paying for that.
I'm not paying for that champagne. No, I mean, honestly, when we're talking budget, that is a common thing of like, if you're okay with not having the champagne toast, like just do a toast with whatever drink they have.
Right.
So much champagne gets dumped at the end of the night.
It does. I agree. All right. Well, we have to pay for things like champagne toast around here. So I'm here with Sydney Whidden. She's the host of The Wedding Buzz. We're talking about happily ever after, I think. But I got to take a quick break, and we will be back right after this. And we are back. Now, I'm not going to, you haven't been doing this that long. You haven't been doing this for 35 years, but have you run into a situation where you're like, ooh, these people probably shouldn't even be getting married? Or they're just, everything is a fight, and you're like, this doesn't bode well, or no?
Of course you have those few that are just like, like, how is this going to go? The one thing that I don't know if they were like weren't meant to be, but it kind of made me sad is we did, this moment actually made me decide not to do a first look at my wedding. I like in that moment was like, I'm not doing a first look. We did the first look, and he was, happy to see her. And then as we're like walking back inside, he was like, all right, so we did this. Like, what do I do at the ceremony? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I don't know. Like, I was supposed to look excited when I saw her now. I did. And then at the ceremony, like, what am I supposed to do then? I'm like,
fake it. Yeah.
Cry again. Like, be happy. Like, I don't know. And so hopefully they're still together and everything's great. But I just was like,
where do you, what's the first thing you figure out? Venue, amount of guests, budget, obviously, but
yeah. So I suggest kind of 2 rounds of this of like estimated guest count. It's hard to you get engaged the next week to be like, okay, this is our finalized list, but seriously sit down and like count how many people, and all those people that you're like, maybe not, include them, because it's easier to go down than up. Like if you find a venue that fits 100 people and you're like, yeah, we have 80 people. Perfect. Well, then you keep adding and adding. Now you run into trouble. So figure out your guest list, figure out your budget, a realistic ballpark budget. Have the tough conversations with family members who have said like, oh, we're going to give to you. Like, okay, how much?
Right.
Uncomfortable conversations, but like you have to have it. And then I suggest venue, because venue links, like the capacity at the venue is tied to your guest count.
Day, time of year. Yeah. Is it available?
Is it available? The budget, you have to know a budget to know if the venue is good or bad. And then the venue is linked to the date. So that's definitely where the building blocks where you got to start.
Food comes where in the chain?
Pretty early.
Pretty early.
I like finding all your vendors pretty early. A lot of venues include food. So
right,
if
like
that's the case, then like it's kind of checked off. If they don't include the food, then I would pretty quickly find a caterer to at least lock in your date, and you can always pick the menu later. That's a lot of things with vendors is like, you need a photographer. You need to get that date locked in.
Some people have food truck weddings now.
They do.
They do.
They
And
do.
people think it's fun and it's creative and whatever. I mean, I know some super wealthy people who have weddings like a park on the beach and just the coolest, just a fun band. And it was just awesome. And I've had some people who was like, oh my God, how many mortgages on how many family members' houses did they take out to put this together? And it didn't necessarily make it more fun. More money doesn't necessarily make it more fun.
100%. I mean, what the guests, like you kind of asked what the bride and the groom kind of debate over and the father of the bride, what the guests remember is food and entertainment. 100%. Like the women might care what it looked like and whatnot, but what are they truly going to remember is the food and entertainment.
Are you on the side of band or DJ?
Depends.
That's a wishy-washy answer.
I know. I guess I don't have a...
I'm a fan of karaoke weddings.
Oh, yeah?
I want drunk Uncle Joe to be singing Thriller.
If I had to pick, probably DJ. I think a killer live band can be really cool and really fun.
Right.
But if the band's not good, you can't be like, hey, can you change the song?
So, I agree with that. Somebody told me once that the difference is why the DJ's better. Not only is the DJ, then they're usually probably a good MC and all that kind of stuff. That people know if they're going to dance, and a lot of people dance twice a year, that they need to dance to the song in the way they know the beat is coming. And sometimes the band is a hair off and it screws up the dance. Like I've heard that.
Yeah, I'm mixed because like I have been to weddings with an amazing band and it was like killer, you know, but I've been to weddings where the band just sucked and the bride was in tears the entire night. And it was like, there was not much you could do. Like I didn't know how to tell the band to not be bad. And like, I did try to like, I was like, I need your attention. And they kind of like put on filler music while I talked. And I was like, the bride gave you a list of songs. Like she says you're not playing the right songs. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll play it. And I'm like, okay, she mentioned this. And then they started playing again and they started playing like other stuff. And I was like, I can't be like,
Yeah.
they're in the middle of the performance.
Right. Is the their song, First Dance, Father Daughter, is that a big part of it? Or is that like the last thing that goes in the equation generally?
For what?
For the when you're choosing the music, or like because there's like, this is our song, honey, and the groom's like, I don't even know this song. And then when she dances with her dad, that's usually a song too. But then you get some of these people really choreograph their first dances and then they blow it. I mean, there's a lot of crazy shit. People remember things that are different, but a lot of people are stuck with tradition and they grew up thinking about a wedding a certain way based on what they might have gone to when they were 14 years old. And they want to have that old school,
It totally depends on the crowd. Like younger crowd is definitely more open to like, oh, this is new. This is trendy. She didn't do this traditional thing. And then you get an older crowd who goes and it's like, how come she's not doing this? And how come?
And it also depends on the part of the country. If you are in the Northeast, I have been to a lot of Italian weddings where they're passing around the bag of cash and there's like 150 grand in there at the end of the night. And they're like, nobody's going to touch that bag with this crowd here. But they do that. And everything is old school. The tossing of the bouquet, the dance, the sit down, all of it. And then sometimes different parts of the world do different things. Sometimes people want to have weddings at Bass Pro Shops. Like same thing. Or they dress differently. Or a lot of people want the dark tux and 6 guys in a line, all like that. And some people are like, wear whatever you want. There should be some imagination in all of this. And your job is to pull that out of them.
Yeah.
But people want to respect tradition of what they believe a wedding looks like in their head.
So I was literally emailing a bride this morning and because she was asking, she wants to do evites. And I was like, okay. And she's like, how does this typically work? I was like, okay, well, typically they're not evites and you send a save the date and then this. But at the end of it, I'm like, but it's your wedding. So do anything you want. The title of my book is Your Day, Your Way. Right. How to plan a perfect wedding without losing sight of what matters. So let's look at tradition and then let's look at what you want to do and how can we kind of meet in the middle here? How can we find something that fits what you want without pissing off your family and your guests? The
one job that I believe has gotten easier when it comes to the wedding thing is the photographer. Because, and you're too young to remember this, 15 years ago, He's dropping off a roll of film, or he's developing. He doesn't know if he got the shot.
I'm not too young for this because it's become this new trendy thing to do film photography at weddings.
Oh, it is?
And I don't get it.
Yeah, why? What's the upside of that?
I think people just, you know how like it's now trendy for like record players again?
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
Oh, they want developed film?
They want developed film.
That's stressful because you want to know you got the shot.
And oh my gosh, it drives me insane because it's like some of these photographers, I'm going to piss off all these people, but that's okay. Some of these photographers that only do film photography, they literally have to bring an assistant, which the bride is paying for,
right,
that assistant to be there and hold film ready to swap in the camera. And then I've been at weddings where the photographer's like, hold this genuine moment, wait, let me swap my film. And I'm like,
yeah,
we progressed in the world.
We have.
On
the camera. Everybody's got phones.
And like you can take a digital photo and add a filter to make it look that grainy, filmy look if that's what you want.
I think you can. You can filter it and get.
It's not my style, but if that's what you want, you can do it.
Where do you stand on kids at the wedding, in the wedding? Because that's controversial too.
My wedding was a no kid wedding.
Yeah, which is fair.
If you are super casual, it's like a backyard barbecue, family feel, like, okay, fine. My wedding was a formal wedding, and I was like, no way. No. Because with all it, like a theater, like a performance, it happens once, and I don't.
You can't risk something. Sorry, parents and kids, but yeah.
The amount of money that we paid for the video and everything, no.
Is there one thing looking back on your own wedding that you're like, now that I know things, I wish I did this? Or I would have done this differently?
I wish
like, my wedding was perfect.
Mine
Nothing.
was perfect. No, definitely not. The favors I did, which I had this debate with my parents just the other day, I did these favors that were like little seedling trees, and I was so focused on trying to do something different that I did these seedling trees, and then at the end I was like, this is stupid. Nobody wants a tree. Like, which my mom is like, yes, they did. Like her friend Ed, Sandy and Ed, shout out to the Sheehees. But he has the tree, and he like sends pictures, and it's growing, and he potted it and all this. So some people like still have it. But I was like, this is a lot of trees went to the garbage.
Here's my, I know, it was a good idea though. That's the kind of thing on paper.
They looked cute. It was like packaged cute and had our names on it. But at the end, I had a planner, and watching her like try to hand out these trees, and people who had been drinking all night were like, I don't want a tree. Like,
one thing that bothers me I love to go to weddings. First of all, if somebody invites me to a wedding, I'm going. If somebody wants me there on like the most important day of their life, of course I'm going. I've been to weddings on the other side of the world because people are like, I can't believe you're going to that. I'm like, they wanted me there. So that's my own need to be wanted. What I do not want is to be at a singles table. I don't like the concept of it. I don't like it feels like the loser table. It feels like, because we put these people next to each other, they're randomly going to find love.
Randomly going to end up together.
Yeah, I don't like it. I think it's like, hopefully you guys can be us someday.
I agree.
Like, yeah, it's not good.
So a lot of people do like a head table of all the bridesmaids and groomsmen.
Like the dais, yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing. It's, if you want it, definitely do it. Something that I prefer is just like group your people together. Mm-hmm. Like for example, at my wedding, my sister was my maid of honor. Instead of making her sit like right next to me or at this head table with my bridesmaids that she wasn't really friends with, I had invited some of her friends from grad school that she doesn't get to see that often, because I became friendly with them too. Yeah. And so I put her at a table with them, and they were like ecstatic. They haven't seen each other in months, but they were so close all grad school, you know? So it's like, I put.
That's always a weird dynamic at weddings. You have the college friends, you have the family, you have the work friends, you have this weird sort of.
I like doing tables. Do a work table, do your college table. People are going to enjoy it the most. They don't want to sit with strangers or a singles table. They want to sit with who they know.
And if you're giving a toast out there, it's not for amateurs. Get some help. Get some help. You want to call me? I can write a really good eulogy, and I can write a really good toast. But, I don't want to hear like the first time I saw those two, I knew I'm not only, you're not just gaining a husband, I'm gaining a brother. Like, I don't want to hear that. Like, think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Get a professional to help you. Here's my most controversial wedding take, and the women get so mad when I say this. I will take it to the grave. The way that most women wear their hair on their wedding day, like tight, lacquered, pulled up or whatever, you would never wear it that way to a club. And when you're going to a club, you are trying to look as hot as you have ever looked. So why on your wedding day are you wearing your hair in a fashion that you will never wear again in your life and you have never worn to that point in your life? Seems like the wrong time to take a risk.
Do you know that all the women might hate me, but I agree with you?
There we go.
This has been my, like, you just, like, outed me. I've had this, like internally, every time I see brides with these, like, little buns and, like,
real
updo,
tight and severe. And
I'm like, you kind of look bald from the front, and I don't get it.
And they're like, well, I want it out of my face. Well, there's a lot of ways to keep it out of your face, but who cares if your hair's in your face? You look hot.
Like,
get a goddamn beret.
Not that what I did for my wedding was like, now I'm like, oh, what I did. But like, I put the front back so it wasn't in my face, but the rest was down so I didn't look bald and I looked like myself.
Right. A lot of times it's like, oh, you don't look like that ever before and ever again. Why are you, of all the days to gamble or to take a chance on a look that you don't normally do, I just think it's not a good idea.
So what I really suggest the brides do when they go to their trial for hair and makeup is don't go on Pinterest. I mean, you can go on Pinterest, but like, don't bring a bunch of pictures of other people.
Right.
Find a few pictures of yourself where you feel like you look amazing. Like, I love myself in this picture. Bring that and then say, hey, do an elevated version of this.
And we have so many pictures of ourselves these days. There's just another advantage. Like, oh my God, I looked great that day. Wear it like that. A lot of people are like, well, I'm taking advantage of the fact that I have a hair and makeup crew to give me a look that I've never always wanted to do. No, that's not what you do here.
I feel like this is not allowed for me to say, but
say it.
When my hair is in a bun, it's like when I look like a homeless person around the house.
Yeah, you also look stressed or not happy. It's an unhappy.
Like,
it's not a fun look.
If hair is in a bun, it's probably not like.
We need more ponytails at weddings. There's not enough ponytails going on. I agree. You should be fun. You should be flirty. You should be sexy. You should be beautiful. There's a lot of ways to accomplish that. And sorry, a lot of people are mad at me now for saying this.
Me
but
too.
I'm glad you agreed with this.
I do.
This is what and he loves you as you are. And this is the day, like, you are the one he chose. A lot of women get married for a lot of reasons. She wants the house, the dog, the white picket fence. He's not even on that list. You ever notice that? He's not even there. I believe, when he asked you to marry him, it's because he wanted to spend 50 years with you. Like, I think men are fundamentally more romantic about getting married, and the women are more about the wedding. There's a lot of that. Stereotype away, Brian Howie.
Hey, stereotypes happen for a
one
reason.
thing that you haven't. Is there something that you're like, oh my God, I can't wait for to suggest this to the right couple to have them try it in something that you have not encountered, either being at a wedding or doing what you do for a living? That are like, I wish a wedding just had a bunch of hula hoops. I don't know. Is there something that you're like, somebody needs to take a chance and do this at a wedding, or is that putting you on the spot too much?
No, I mean, I don't mind being on the spot. I don't know if it's like. It's definitely been done before, but not something that I've super experienced. I love like entertainment at weddings. I know that it's like not budget friendly at all.
Like a magician?
Just maybe not a magician.
I think a magician work in the room and the reception is a good thing. I think that'd be cool.
I just think, kind of going back to what I said, like the guests remember the food and the entertainment. I just think keeping the night fun. Every 30 minutes, do something different. Add a confetti pop, add CO2 cannons, have the magician pop in the room, have some dancers or something. Like, I just think, I wish more people focused on fun.
People are going to remember, how was that wedding? Oh my God, it was so much fun. And people don't focus on the fun. Focus on the fun.
The other thing with like today, a lot of people not wanting to do the traditional like bouquet toss, garter toss. Okay, what are you doing? People get tired of dancing.
Is that considered sexist now?
I guess.
A bunch of women fighting over the bouquet? Like, is that the reason, like, a lot of people are steering away from it?
I think a lot of people, it's trendy to not be traditional, so I think that's part of it. And then I do think, especially as you're getting into later 20s, 30s, or older, a lot of your friends are married. So then it's almost like, hey, let's single out the single people and put them on display. So it's not, I guess, that nice.
Right. That's true too.
So
Yeah.
I'm not like saying you have to do the traditional things, but do something. Your guests cannot just dance from 7:30 to 10 o'clock at night. Like, they're going to get bored.
They are. There has to be more than pictures, food, dance.
Right.
You have to come up with something else.
Yeah, and it's not a waste of money, in my opinion. Like,
No, it's not.
Do the confetti pop, do the CO2 cannons. It makes great pictures. People remember it.
They do.
It's so fun.
Yeah. Be creative. What was the highlight of your own wedding? What's the thing you remember the most besides your fantastic hair?
I was really happy during the ceremony.
That helps.
Yeah, I just remember the whole day I was just happy and calm, and I just was nervous that I would be nervous, and I really wasn't. And so I know that that's not one moment, but I was just really happy. Even the ceremony, I was just genuinely happy and like in the moment.
And people can feed off that. Like, that is a
Yeah.
good thing. If you're happy and you can feel that, and it doesn't feel like a stressful thing. And did you know everybody at your wedding? Or were there people who you met for the first time?
I knew there were people I met for the first time, but I knew about 99%. Like, there was a couple people on his side that I
Like, wait,
hadn't met.
who is this cousin of yours?
Yeah. There was a couple people, and we got married pretty fast. He proposed in 7 months, and then we got married a year after. So,
That's about right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's good.
I was not down to be begging for, like, I don't know. I know this is maybe controversial, but
It's called the Great Love Debate.
yeah, some women just beg for that proposal for like years and years. And I was like, I don't think I want to do that. And then he proposed probably earlier than I was expecting.
Right.
And
Was it a surprise?
yeah,
Good.
it definitely was. Yeah. I was surprised. I had like,
Took you down to Bass Pro Shop and shot it out of a gun.
no, he wishes.
He wishes.
No, he did it. He did it on Christmas in front of my family. And
Did they know?
yeah, they knew.
Good for
I
him.
knew. So I had like weird feelings. Like, I decided, I don't know why. I went through like I'm gonna vlog, and normally he's like, put the camera away. Like, I don't want it. And that day he was like, here, babe, I'll help you set up your camera, right before we were about to open presents. And I was like, huh? But then I also was thinking like, no, there's no way he's gonna propose. But he did.
All right. I'm going to let you plug your book, your business, and your podcast. And then, this is your first time on the podcast, we play something called Worst Date or First Date. So you have to either think back to your swinging single days of when you had a really bad date, or give us the really best date you've ever had. Could be with your husband, could be with somebody else, your choice. So first of all, tell everybody about your book, tell everybody about your business, and tell everybody where they can find your podcast.
Okay. Yes, I have a book. It's called Your Day, Your Way. It's on Amazon. It is an Amazon bestseller.
That's a good title.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Your Day, Your Way on Amazon. My podcast is The Wedding Buzz. So that is on Spotify, Apple. I do upload the videos on YouTube as well if you want to watch it. We talk about all things wedding and a lot of things that new couples are going through. And then I am a wedding planner. I am in West Palm Beach, Florida. So if you need a wedding planner, or I offer content creation services. So if you need wedding planning or content creation in South Florida, I'm your girl.
Good for you. All right. Worst date or first date, your choice.
I don't know.
Well, give me your first date with your husband then. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
We went fly fishing. No, what was it?
Oh, he wishes.
See, he's wishing. You've taken a lot of his wishes away.
I know.
Give me that one. That's a good hopeful story to end on.
Okay. We met on Bumble.
There you go. Old fashioned.
Met on Bumble.
Well, okay. So you had to go first. What was your opening line on Bumble?
I wish I remembered.
Oh, come on.
I was not
Hey.
like interesting at all. I just was like, hey, how are you? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't.
He's like, she's cute. That's fine.
I was really over the dating and stuff when I met him. I just was like kind of trying because I felt like I had to. But so I don't know, probably something boring. Hey, how are you? But we did click like right away. We met 3 days later. We went to Elizabetta's on Atlantic Avenue for
In
dinner.
Delray Beach, Florida.
Yeah. But we met May of 2020. It was COVID. Everything was closed.
Yeah, it was a little less closed here in South Florida, but it was still, that was a weird time to do it.
It was super weird. So it wasn't like that extravagant or anything, but it was sweet. We literally sat in his truck and just talked for hours.
That's got as good hours. That's got as good a chance to work as anything else.
A couple hours, we just sat and talked because there was nothing else. The movies were closed.
Yeah, that's
like
true. Well, you're 2 blocks from the beach.
Yeah, I guess we could have gone there. It was raining.
Nope, we just sat in the parking lot in the truck.
We did.
And here you are.
And here we are.
Good for you. Thank you. This was fun. This was a little splash of hope on sort of a negative series of podcasts I've had. I'm sorry about that. We cover all sides. We're 400 and something episodes here. We got to slice this apple a lot of different ways. As far as us and the Wedding Buzz, like, share, follow. Please review this podcast and Wedding Buzz. Your reviews mean a lot in the podcasting ecosystem. Shoot us an email, greatlovedebate@gmail.com. If you have some thoughts on wedding hairstyles or anything else that I said about this or anything else, we have a listener letter, a mailbag episode coming up, I think either the next episode or the episode after that. I have a fairly big celebrity who I've been trying to get on for a long, long time coming up the week after that. Go to greatlovedebate.com. I think there's some live shows to finish out the year. I don't know. I'm losing my mojo on it only because I'm tired of traveling, but I do have some obligations to do some live shows. Like I said, we lost a bunch of our live tour shows to COVID and got to make them up. Got to give the people what they want. Because as always, at the Great Love Debate, we never stop making love. See you next time.
The Great Love Debate. It's the Great Love Debate.